Good evening, everybody. All right, let me know. Let's do a quick check. Let me know if you can hear me clearly. Let me know if you can hear the piano in my voice. And let me know where you are in the world. Where are you joining us from? Come on in the room. All right, let everybody know that we're starting. Come on in, two on a meal. All right. Let's check out who's all in the room. Hey, Stephanie. How are you? Hey, Clifton. Hey, these are all of my premium membership members, part of the membership. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Let's see, Marcus, how's it going? Sifu Ellen. Ike, how's it going? All right, let me know where you are. Come on. All right, so we got a nice live training tonight. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. We'll give the last stragglers time to come on in the room. Oh, another one of our premium membership. Hey, Noriko. All right, family. Well, welcome in. Tonight we're going to be talking about something that almost nobody teaches in improvisation, but it's something that can completely change how your solos sound. Most people teach you scales, licks, chords, patterns, riffs, these things, but very few people talk about how to actually start your improvised line. And that's wild because, the first note you choose and how you approach it often determines whether your line sounds intentional, melodic, or random and disconnected. So tonight we're talking about approaches, but not in like some super abstract way. It's going to be very, very applicable and practical. that you can play tonight. You're going to being able to play this stuff in just a few moments, actually. So I'm going to show you 5 different approaches. The first one is the step approach. Second one is surround tone approach. The third one is the double surround tone. The fourth is mixing the surround tones. And the fifth is a linear approach. And then I'll have a bonus on the end. And tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out the bag and give you the bonus. And that is this. This isn't something that you can only do on the first note of your line. Once you understand how to do this, you can use this approach to target any note. Any chord tone, tension, passing tone, anywhere in your improvised line. So, in other words, this isn't just about starting better solos. It's about making your entire improvisation sound more connected, more intentional, and more grown, if you will. So, if you've ever felt like your solos sounded random, you don't know how to enter a phrase cleanly, or you keep starting your lines the exact same way, you're in the right place tonight. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to use, I love using, one of my favorite songs is Autumn Leaves. And I'm just going to use the first couple chords of that song, which are just C minor to F7, and then to B flat major. So it's just a 2-5-1 in B flat major. All right. So we're just going to use a 2-5-1 in B flat for now. I might go further, and if I do, I'll end up writing the changes on the screen so you can see those. All right. So the first approach I talked about is the step approach. How do you approach the first note of your improvised line? Well, the first way we can approach it is by step. Now, what is a step? So technically a step is either a half step or the 2 types of step, half steps and whole steps. So let's say I'm on C, or I'm trying to go to C. There are a number of ways I can get to C. I can do a half step approach from below. I can do a half step approach from above. I can do a whole step approach from below, or I can do a whole step approach from above. All right, does that make sense? So let's say I'm doing that 2-5-1 in B flat minor. In B flat major. Right, and my line I'm going to do is just this. That's going to be my line. All right, so we're going to start very simple and get progressively more difficult. All right, so no matter where you are on the improvisation spectrum, there's something for you. So here's the first one, by step. Here's our line again. Here's our template line. Now the line really doesn't matter. What I want you to focus on is how I started. So I could go by step from below. I could go from half step above. Now most people say, but Corey, you're in the key of B flat and you went a half step above? Yeah, for sure. Like say, like that's out of the key, but it's okay. It's okay. All right. Listen again. All right, or all right, let's go by whole step. Let's go whole step above. Or whole step below. You got it? All right. So by step, it doesn't matter what the line is. If I do, I don't know. I don't like the line, but even if I do that, I do it slowly. Let's see, I'm doing that. So now I'm gonna approach it by step. Let's do a whole step above. Or whole step, a half step below. All right, does that make sense? So approaching by step, that's the first way. Now, the next way to approach is surround. So I've been starting on E flat. That's my first note. So let's keep it that way. Now what I'm going to do is surround E flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go either a half step or whole step below the note and a half step or a whole step above the note. So I'm literally going to play two notes surrounding it. So I could let's do half steps above and below. So I'm going to go. Or that's wild. All right. So or right, and then you're starting to hear that kind of jazzy sound. All right, so that is half steps. Let's do a half step below and let me do a whole step above. Let's do that. So a half step below and a whole step above. All right, here we go. Okay. Let's start from the above and come low. All right. So focus on the start. So I'm just showing you the line really doesn't matter at this point. We're going to get into the line. I'll give you some ideas about how to approach the line itself. But we're talking about starting the line. So let's make sure we're focused here. How about we do let's do a weird one. Let's start a whole step below and a half step above. Ooh. Has kind of like an Arabic. Oh yeah, that's interesting. All right, so we have surround. That's interesting. Ooh. Let's do whole step above, whole step below. That's crazy. Now that kind of implies something else. It implies we're going to almost go into B flat minor. Uh-oh. All right, let's try it again. All right. Cool. All right. So that is surround. So we have step and we have surround. All right. Any questions so far? Let me pause. And my mic is going in and out for some reason. Let me pause for a second and see if anybody has any questions. All right, I see Dr. Sheila says, oh, don't forget to include your time zones in the, oh yeah. I normally put the time zones, but I must have forgot to put the time zone. My apologies there. But just so you know, we're in Eastern Standard Time always. So the general time we are going at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's our general time. My apologies there. Let's see. Any other questions? No. All right. Let's keep going. All right. So the next one is the double surround. So what does that mean? I'm going to play 2 notes below and 2 notes above my target tone. So let's say I'm starting my line on E flat. I'm going to play 2 notes below and above. So let's say I'll do a whole step below, and then a half step below, and then a whole step above, and then a half step above, and then my tone. So watch this. This is going to really give you that jazzy sound. Listen. Wow. Let's flip it. Let's go too high and then too low. So let's try that. All right. Does anybody currently use these? Let me know in the chat if you currently use these kind of techniques in your improvised line. Ooh, that's nice. All right. So now let's do this. Let's do whole step above, whole step below, and then half step above, half step below our target, which is E flat. So it's going to sound like this. Let's listen to that. Let's do a whole step below, a whole step above, a half step below, a half step above. And you can kind of hear how this thing is kind of becoming more and more jazzy, right? Okay. Wow. That is crazy. That's a nice sound. Let's do a half step below, then a whole step, a half step above, then a whole step above. So it's going to go. That's weird. All right. That's interesting. So now we're adding some real interest to our line. It's not just going or whatever we're doing. We have this. All right. All right. Let's keep going. The next one is we're going to mix the surrounds. So instead of being symmetrical, like 2 on the bottom, 2 on top, or 1 on the bottom, 1 on top, let's do 2 on the bottom and 1 on top. Or, yeah, 2 on the bottom, 1 on top. So I'll do a whole step, half step below, then I go a whole step above. So, Does it make sense? All right. There we go. All right, let me do a 2 above and 1 below. Let's try it. So, yeah, there we go. Woo. All right, so you can hear that. So we're mixing. We're doing 2 above and 1 below, or 2 below and 1 above. So mixing the ideas. Okay. So before I go on, let me check to see if I have any questions or any comments I need to acknowledge. A quick check, and then we're going to keep going because we have a lot more. And I might give y'all an additional bonus if y'all stick with me to the end. All right. Ronnie says he's still a work in progress, but getting better with it. Okay, cool. From the hips he says I'm late, but I'm here. Welcome. Glad you're here. Any questions on this before I keep going? Or does it make sense? Let me know. All right. I know when I was younger, I used to think the guys playing improvising were just playing random notes, but there's a real logic and real art behind it all. That once you really master, it's really like another language. All right, so let's see. Stephanie says makes sense. Clifton says totally. Okay, cool. From the hip says I feel like I'm usually the most talkative in the chat. Not today. Not today. You're not. All right. Now let's keep going. The next one. Here's the 5th one. The 5th approach we can use is a linear approach. What do I mean by linear approach? I mean scalar, like a scalar approach. So, for example. The first chord is C minor, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking, what scale can I use to approach C minor? Well, what chord could I use to approach C minor? I could use B diminished, right? So I'm gonna use that symmetric diminished scale. To approach C minor, and so that diminished scale is just simply B. It's a half whole or whole, depending on which note you start on. It's a half whole or whole half. So if I start on B, it's going to be whole step, then half step, whole step, then half step, whole step, then half step, whole step, then half step. So those. So let's say I use that sound to approach this first C minor. And remember, my melody note, my improvised line is going to start on E flat. So I'm going to play this diminished scale in a way to land on E flat. Let's see, let's start below it. I think I messed up. There we go. I did a little surround tone at the end. Right. So you don't necessarily have to start from the root of the line because you might not land perfectly. So I want to land perfectly. Let's see. There we go. So I'm starting on E. That's part of the diminished scale, but it lets me land perfectly. It's even. You see it? All right, one more time. Let's come from above. That's the job. There we go. Cool. All right. So 1, 2. Ooh. So I'm using the diminished scale, the symmetric diminished scale. All right, what's another way we can approach C minor? We could approach C minor from like a G7. And I can use, one of the approaches I can use is a melodic minor, a half step up. So if you're on a dominant chord, so I'm on G7, right? You go up a half step and play the melodic minor scale a half step up. So it's going to be like a regular minor, but then we're going to go major 6, major 7. So, sorry. So that's the scale I'm going to play on top of my G7. And I'll start on the G. That's why in jazz, this is one of the reasons why we love the melodic minor scale. When I first started in jazz, it was one of the first scales I learned, the melodic minor scale. And you can kind of hear how it naturally it resolves nice in C minor. So okay, I'm gonna use the melodic minor scale. Remember, our starting note is E flat. All right, or maybe from coming from down. All right. Let's start from the F. All right. Does that make sense? Using a scale. I could use just a regular major scale. I have a question. Tosh says, what melodic minor scale was that? It was the melodic minor scale a half step up from our dominant chord. So if I'm approaching C minor, what chord gets me to C minor? What dominant chord? Is G7. So I'm gonna go a half step up from the root of G7, which is A flat, and that's the melodic minor. So A flat melodic minor, played on top of like a G7. That's like a classic jazz little secret. And you know that sound. That sound is just that sound in the jazz world used constantly. All right, but it doesn't have to be that. We could use the major scale or something. Let's use the major scale. Let's search on. I see another question. So Enrico says, so that's a phrase on the pickup, one bar before the beginning of the solo, right? Yes, that's right. So one bar before our C minor, I'm going to play G7 and play this stuff. So a half step up, Tosh, from G. A half step up would be A flat, not F sharp. F sharp would be a half step down. So we're on G7. We're going to play the melodic minor a half step up from G, which would be A flat. We still hold the G7 chord, but in our hand we're thinking A flat melodic minor. Any other questions? Yeah, but this is before we start our line. That's correct. So Tosh says, what's the theory behind the the half step up concept? So the idea is this. If we think about a G7 and we think about all its extensions, all its tensions, so it's all its alterations rather. So if G7, we go to the 9, we could flat it or sharp it, right? If we go to the, depending on your school theory, the 11, we can sharp it. The 13, we can flat it. So we have G7 here, and all the altered extensions are these notes. And if you notice in the melodic minor scale, it hits all of these as well as hitting the G, the B, and the F. So it gives you the G7 sound plus the extensions. And when we play it, like generally like a G7 or something, a dominant chord, we're going to give you some extension. So this hits all of them. So it's giving you this sound, but also giving you some color, which is why it's a great choice to play over a dominant chord. All right. Okay. So we could also use just the major scale. So I'm in the key of B flat. I can use the B flat major scale, that linear scale, right? Let's see. I'm gonna do this. So what is that? I'm just going. But I'm just gonna add like an escape tone. Right? Now I'm mixing the things up. I'm doing like major scale stuff. Then surround. Ooh. And so now you see we can mix these things up and create some really, really interesting things. Let's have a little fun for a second. So I'm gonna do the melodic minor, the scalar, but then I'm gonna do double surround. Woo! So here we go. Now the key is getting it to land right. So you gotta start right. There we go. So that's the idea. All right. And I can do like single surround. I can do a major scale and then surround it. Do that. That's sweet. All right. That's beautiful. Oh, I can start. I started a little lower, started a little closer, and then did my double surround. So. Are you seeing what we're doing? So does that make sense about the linear idea and then combining ideas? These are really, really powerful concepts. All right, let me just pause. Testing. Let me just pause for a second, see if there's any questions. Alan's Voltaire says, what is the difference between the melodic minor I'm not sure what the other word says, and the diminished scale? Well, it's very subtle. I mean, it's not much difference, but there are some differences. That's a great question. I'll write it out for you. So I'm going to start on G for both of them. So I'm going to start, here's the diminished scale. I'm starting on G, so I'm starting not on the note of I start on A flat. So here we go, A flat. All steps, so B flat, then B, D flat, D, E, F, G, A flat. And let me move over so you can see that. Okay, and then the melodic minor, all right, MM, is A flat, B flat. I'll write B, but it's technically C flat, but I'll write B, D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. So one of the first things you notice is the melodic minor is a 7-note scale that diminishes 8 notes. This is why we call the diminished symmetric diminish. It's 8, so it lands, well, a part of it is it's a half whole, so it's symmetric in that way. But it lands evenly. Okay, so really there's the difference is right here. That's the main difference. Good question. Okay. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Now let's take it up to the next level and go a little more advanced. Let's say I put out a video on YouTube a little while back where I talked about chord tone improvisation. Like if you didn't know how to improv, just use the chord tones. For example, if my chord is C minor 7, then use those notes. If my chord is F, then use those notes. If I'm B flat, then use those notes. Right? So let me show you this bonus idea, which is this. These ideas I've been showing you and teaching you can be used not just to start your solo, but can be used for every note or any note of the scale. So I'm gonna do something really simple. Here's gonna be my improvised line. It's gonna be really simple. For the C minor, I'm gonna use 2 notes. For the F7, I'm gonna use 2 notes. And then for the B flat, I'm gonna go to D. All right. So here we go. And I'm gonna approach the first note. Let's do Let's do double surround. But tell you what, I'm gonna do something to go to the C. Tell you what, I'm gonna do a mixed surround. So I'm gonna do one note below, two notes above the C. So I told you my improvised line was gonna be E flat, D, then A, F. So I'm gonna double surround the E flat. Now I'm gonna mix surround the C. Then I'm gonna mix around the A. So I went one above and two below. Then I'm gonna do just maybe one chromatic approach, half step above to get to the F. And then maybe a chromatic, maybe single surround to get to the D. So let's do this slowly. I want to add more notes. Let's add some more. So we did double surround for that one. Did a mix surround, one below, two above for the C. Now we're approaching the A, so I'm gonna do a mix surround, one above, two below. Now to get to the F, I'm gonna go chromatically down. I'm gonna do a scalar idea, just chromatic scale. And then for the D, I'm gonna do a mix around. I'm gonna do one above and two below. Ooh. So let's put them all together. Right? And I started with this. I'll do it again. Now I'm gonna add my notes. Woo! Now we're really sounding jazzy. Let's try it again. Let me speed it up a little bit so you can kind of hear it. Here we go. And doesn't that sound like the jazz lines that you hear, on records and stuff? Okay. So now you can see the power of this. I'm not just doing it to the first note. I'm doing it to every note, which is it kind of boggles the mind a bit. It boggles the mind a bit, right? I do that line one more time so you can see it. I added two extra. I had to add it a little on the end. Let's try it again. Let me switch it up. I'll switch this around. So I did two above, then two below. Woo! Yeah. So there you go. There you go. That's the bonus. That's kind of like the coup de grace idea. It's like I'm speaking French. I don't even know French, but tour de force idea. I don't know. Like you can use this idea for every note, and now your lines sound like really incredible. All right. Let me look and see if we have any questions here. Tosh says, do you have to make a decision between picking the half whole or whole half diminished scale? Okay, it's a good question. That's a good question. In the academic world, uh, there's a lot of talk on it. Is it half whole or whole half, or which notes do you start on, and these things. Um, but ultimately, uh, for uh, um, it's a great question. For our context here, if you're going to start on, like, if I'm doing B diminished, for example, then we're going to do a whole half. If I'm starting from like G7. So for example, for me, when I see a G7, I still think B diminished. But I'll start from G and then I'll do half whole. Because that has the sound, that's the sound of this thing. Right? If I started on B and did the opposite way, which is half whole, excuse me, then I'm getting into a different diminished that sounds different for a different. So I generally stick with this. It's only 3 diminished scales, and how you get to them is how you get to them. But I just do a whole half, and just I don't really have I don't think about the whether to do whole half or half whole. I just stick with the same ones, and when you get to the same place, so less thought, or just simply just know the scale and just be able to start from any note, and you're fine. But it is a whole conversation in the theory world. Yeah. Noriko says, very bebop-y. It is. Yeah, very bebop. It is. Clifton says, doesn't it depend on direction? I see what you're saying, Clifton. Clifton's saying if you go down, it'll be half whole. But this discussion, actually, there's a whole thing about how do you form the diminished scales at half whole or whole half going ascending. So there's a whole conversation about that for sure. All right. All right. Let's see. Any other questions? This has been a fun time, fun lesson. Now, let me just give you a word of wisdom, which is these ideas seem very simple conceptually, and one of the mistakes I made early on in my growth in my music journey is that I could understand the idea conceptually pretty quickly. And because I understood it conceptually, I thought that meant I knew it. But not the case, because I couldn't play it as well as I understood it. So you want to make sure you can play the thing, right? Can you play the stuff? And that's where the real challenge is, because it's harder to play than understand, at least this particular idea. And so you want to spend time to start with something simple and work your way up, and you'll find yourself like starting to get it and get it and get it. Tosh says, what other scales could we use? Okay. I'll give you one. I don't think I've ever given this particular scale out on YouTube or anywhere. I don't know if I've actually given it out anywhere. This is one of my favorite scales to use. I'll share it with you. Now we're gonna kind of get in the weeds a little bit, but here's one. fifth mode harmonic minor. So if I think about C harmonic minor, which is so I'll write the notes out so you can see them. Here's the harmonic minor scale. I'll write HM so you know it's harmonic minor. C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat, B, C. Right? So fifth mode means start on the fifth note. So I'm gonna start on the G. So let's rewrite it now with the G first. G, if you can see that. Yep, you can see it. A flat, B, C, D, E flat, F, G. Let's play that scale now. It's such a beautiful sound. So fifth mode harmonic minor. It's a great sound. That's a scale you could use. All right. Any other questions? I didn't imagine I'd be talking about fifth mode harmonic minor today. That's funny. All right. Any other questions? Anybody? All right, I'm not seeing any questions come through. I think there's a little bit of a little bit of a delay, so I'll give you just a couple more seconds more. See if anybody has any questions. Now, while I'm waiting, I'll just say this. So let's say you're not like a jazzer per se. You might be a gospel musician or another genre. Well, you can still use these ideas, but maybe instead of playing them single line, right? So instead of going and approaching like, maybe you can do it with chords. Okay. So I see a question come through. What are the best ways to practice these? Well, take one at a time. So I would use the structure that I gave. Start with the step first, and then go to the surround tones, then double surrounds, then mix it. So and just take one at a time. So don't try to eat the whole elephant. Do one at a time. Yeah, I think that's, and then go slowly and master it. So just master one idea, and you'll have them before long. Andy Melinda said, "How does Slonimsky influenced jazz. If I remember correctly, he wrote the thesaurus of scales and melodic patterns or something like that. I might have his book, but I I I don't. I've never heard anybody reference him and his work as like I I always viewed his work as like a dictionary. Like what was that scale? And just looking it up if you wanted to know what the particular scale was. But as far as like, I've never heard a player or really a teacher reference his work, at least in my educational experience. For me, I was trying to grab everything. So, the thesaurus of scales or whatever, melodic patterns available, definitely check it out. But I, I've never once heard it mentioned in ever. And if you think about the history of jazz, jazz was initially an oral tradition. You had different schools, and you learn by transcribing guys, not so much looking at a scale book. So, and maybe it influenced some people. I don't know, but I've never heard it mentioned as an influence. Tosh says could help understand what you did with the chord version for sure. So this was the line. So what I did was the chord is C minor, so I just went below and played B minor, and then C minor, and then I just inverted the chord. And then just F. Did I do F? I think I did diminished. I don't know what I did here. Something like that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Andy says thanks. Oh, you're welcome, man. Glad to help. You're the first Slanimsky question I've ever gotten. Do you like have his book, or do you know him personally? Tosh says, thanks much, Corey. I'm trying to send you a super chat, but something's wrong. Oh, thanks so much, Tosh. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not, that would be more on the YouTube side. So I don't even know particularly how to help on that. All right. Thanks, Tosh. Yeah. So, if you want to get to the cause, there's a little, super chat button right next to the chat where you can show show your support and give. So yeah, for sure. Any other questions? So yeah. Listen, y'all, take these ideas, run with them, and send me a recording or post a recording on YouTube and tag me in it or something. So I can see it and see what you're doing. Because I want to hear how you're using these ideas. I remember as a teacher, an educator, that's like one of the biggest thrills is seeing people that you work with use the idea. I remember I was in Washington D.C. and one of the guys that inspired me, uh, we happened to be in the same place. And so we sat down at the piano and he played for me and showed me some stuff. And then he asked me to show him some stuff. So I showed him some stuff. And he was actually on tour. And so he said, Corey, when I come to Atlanta, come to my show. And he actually got me tickets to the show. And I came to the show. And in the show, all the stuff that I showed him, he was steady using it. And then looking at me. And then after the show, he asked me, Corey, did you hear it? I'm like, yeah, I heard it. But that's like the best feeling, so that's like the best feeling. All right. Andy says, I have the book and have tried to wrap around it. Not sure about its usefulness. Yeah, it's more like a dictionary. For my use case, it's always been like a dictionary for me. So, however helpful you find the dictionary is about as helpful I think as you find this, or a thesaurus. That's what it's called, a thesaurus of scales and melodic patterns. So, yeah, there you go. Lamar Brewster says, I just found out my sister was having a baby. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations. I would say Corey is a great name for a girl or a boy. Just throwing it out there. All right. Let me see. Any other question? I gotta get out of that. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any more questions. So I just want to say thank y'all so much for being part of the stream. Take these ideas, run with them. I love to hear what you do with them. And remember, it's about the application. It's about applying these things. So sometimes they're easy to understand, but it's difficult to apply. Try it now while you're sitting here. If hopefully you're in front of your piano, or in your next practice session, give it a try. See if you can do these things, and let me know how it goes. Okay, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much, and until the next one, be blessed and happy practicing.